Okay, so I've got those two main furniture pieces done, and now I want to draw that chair, which goes next to the board table there. And it's a good chance to go over some of the drawing commands you've been looking at, but also then look at the block command that you probably wouldn't have done until this point. So, sorry, just getting my notes. Just quickly have a look here. So the chair can just go onto the furniture layer. So I've just switched to draw on that layer. And I'll just point one little thing out there. I've done that the same way that I changed things to a different layer before. So the key there is, if you want to change your current layer, the layer you're drawing on, make sure you don't have anything selected. And then you can just choose the layer you want to draw on from the list there. If you've got something selected, then you change it here, it's going to change that object to a different layer. And we don't want that. So then, the chair, so I'm just having a look here at the dimensions. 300 by, oh no, that's the projector, sorry. If anyone can remember the first dimensions, I've just forgotten them. 300 seems a bit small. 600, that's better, yep. Oh, that's, yes, right, okay. So with the rectangle command, I'm just going to click a point roughly near the table. Doesn't really matter where, we're going to move it anyway. 600, comma, 600. Enter, of course, and then... Okay, so it says to radius the two adjacent corners of the seat. Now, let's just see what they mean by that. Oh yeah, so they want the big radius. So that's, okay, now in the notes it says 260 degrees. Of course, it's not 260 degrees, it's 260. It's a distance in millimetres. So, yeah, where was it, 26? Yeah, so the next step, 27. So there, I'm sure you make it work anyway, but yeah, where it says 260 degrees, that's a misprint. It shouldn't be degrees, it's millimetres, that measurement. So, yeah, okay, so if we go and use fillet, so if it says chamfer from before, we just need to choose the down arrow to go back to fillet. F is the shortcut. So here, I've started fillet and I'm going to type R as the shortcut for radius, and then 260, and then choose the, what they're calling the two adjacent corners. So in this case, I'd say it's the back corners, the sides that are furthest from the table, so this line and this line. And then to repeat fillet, you can always just click on the button again, or press enter to repeat the command, and choose the two lines below. And then offset 60 mil. So offset 60, you'll need to type if you need to, and then choose the polyline and click inside. Fairly sure. Yep. Make sure I got that right this time. And then explode the inner line. So I'm going to select them first and then click explode. And then use extend. So if you don't see extend, you can click on the down arrow next to trim, and you'll see extend there. EX is the shortcut. And then, just like trim, you need to press enter first to make everything a boundary edge. So it's not a cutting edge like it is with trim, but it's still an edge that you extend or trim to. And there is a trick. Trim and extend are basically the same command, and you can switch between them using shift, you'll see later. But for now, it's going to pick these lines. So, yeah, so I'll just repeat that because that's just worth looking at. So again, extend, and then enter before you select anything. Then click on the line that you want to extend, which is this one, and you need to click both ends to extend the top and the bottom. And then, now having said all of that, there's a step they. Oh no, I see what they're doing. Okay, now it all makes sense to me. Okay, so what they're saying here is that you can then use trim, and then again, press enter, and then choose in between those two lines. Right, so then you can use fillet. So that will work, but I'm just going to show you a little shortcut there. So remember I said trim and extend are the same command? If I use extend, doesn't matter which one I start with, but I'll use extend. And just like before, enter to start, and I'll choose the top and then the bottom of that line. Then I'm going to hold down shift, choose in between. So shift switches between trim and extend. And you can always use that with either command.
That work with anything that has like...
No, unfortunately just trim and extend. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. So, yeah, it'd be nice if it did, but it doesn't. So, yeah, okay, so then if we go to fillet and type in make the radius 60, so R, enter, 60, enter, and then choose the little line and then the one it joins to, click fillet again, and the same other way. And it's done. There we go. So that's also one more, fillet again, and then these two corners on the outside, and it's done. Yeah. So then I'm going to select the whole thing with a window and type B-L-O-C-K, block. If you're looking for the command on the ribbon, it doesn't say block, it's create. It's in the block panel, and you use the create button to make a block. So the block command makes blocks, just like the door we inserted before, so you're going to make your own block by selecting it, typing block. When you press enter, you get this dialog box where you need to type in the name, which is going to be chair board. And then make sure you choose pick point before you click OK or press enter. So, where do they say they want the base point? Midpoint in the base of the chair. So it says on the base, but really I think they mean the front. That probably would make the most sense. So I'm going to choose that point there. So it's the point you've got to use to place this block afterwards and manipulate it. So it's worth thinking about. And yes, I think that's the most logical point. So I'm going to choose that point and then click OK. Notice it's got the option though to convert to block. So that means what I've selected is going to be now a block. And always, always leave that option on. Don't ever turn that allow exploding off, otherwise you can't get the things you've made back. So, so leave that on. Click OK, and now you'll see when you select it, it's all one object. So if you want to, you can use little tricks like I've been showing you to snap this exactly to the midpoint of that edge there, and then move it away if you want to get it centered in that against that panel. I suppose. Let's just see how they're set out. I haven't been thinking about it. Yeah, I think that's kind of what they've... Oh no, they've got 4 chairs, so that doesn't make sense. Anyhow, so I know what they're going to do, and you're going to use a different command to do the spacing called divide. Well, firstly, they've also got a spacing of 200, so I'll do that as well. So, yeah, so I think what they want you to do is draw a new line from the midpoint of this edge down to the midpoint of the equivalent edge on the panel at the bottom, and then offset 200. And before saying don't be afraid to draw construction lines in, and this is just another one of those. So I'll delete that first line that I drew because that'll get in the way later, and then select my chair, and I can use that insertion point now to pick up the block and snap it onto my new endpoint. So that's the first one. But then we need to have evenly spaced chairs along that line. So that's where you can use the divide command. And like it says in the notes, you can type divide. I'm pretty sure that's what it would say. Yeah. Okay, so it says you can type divide. But I'm going to go to the ribbon and show you where it is there. It's up under the draw panel because we're actually drawing in some new points with this divide tool. That's why it's a drawing command. So with divide there, I'll click. Again, if you type divide, it works exactly the same. I'm going to select my line and then type in, now what can I think it's going to be, oh, they're doing 8. Okay, I see why, because they want to have, yeah, so we're not going to use every point. All right, so they want 8 segments, so it's going to have 8, enter. You'll see why when it's done, it will make more sense once you see all the points. So it has divided the line, even though it's all still one line, it's put some points there to divide it up. But we can't see the points. So in the notes you'll see it says you can type in DDP type to bring up the options. Now, you may not remember that, so I'm going to show you where it is on the ribbon. It's up here. You've got this little utilities panel, and there you'll see point style. That's what DDP type means. DD just means dialog box, P type means point type. So if you click there, point style does the same thing. Brings up the point styles or the point types. And you can choose any that you like. I'll do the one they say in the notes, which is the cross. Click OK. And I've done it that way just so you can see the points were there already with divide. And you can turn them on and off as you go. So here, I can always go back to point styles later and set it back to a dot or blank even. It's up to you. Okay, so then you can see maybe why they get you divided to 8, because we're going to use every second point. So now I'm going to insert that block again, just to practice. So clicking on the insert panel, we can just choose the chair from that what is it, menu, or the thing that flies out with the thumbnails. You can go to more options if you want to, and then choose it from the list. There, works the same. That would work, but again, doesn't hurt to just do it from here. Insert and find the chair board block. So again, every second point. So this one is what I'm going to choose, and then back to here and choose it again, and this one, and also actually every third point, is it? Yeah, every third point. And then this one, and then yeah, this doesn't really make sense, does it? Okay, so yeah, it's a bit of a mad way. It's not the way I would choose to divide. Don't know why they have said it is an odd method. I can think of some better approaches to use, but anyhow, in this case, it's just an exercise and a bit of practice. So maybe we'll choose that endpoint, and maybe this makes more sense here. Yeah. I have to talk. Tanya is the person who wrote this, and she's normally really clever with things like this, but I think she made a bit of a mistake there. That doesn't really make sense to me.
I think the problem is that the line,
Yeah.
the line,
Oh, it should have been from the corner. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, and then she was using the points. Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll show you, there's some really well-defined methods of dividing up and spacing things that I'll go through with you later. But yeah, maybe we can just divide this again and it'll make more sense. So I'll repeat the divide. Yeah. But yeah, anyhow, you'll see when we go through the dividing methods that I'll show you later, if you don't really understand them, you'll end up doing methods like this that you'll see don't make a lot of sense. Anyhow, we'll just go with it for now. So, yeah. There we go. So they're evenly spaced now. At least that works. And then, so they didn't use the ends, right? So it works in this case. You'll see that method wouldn't work in most situations because you don't want to divide. You don't want to divide in that way. But anyhow, this time it works. So now I can delete those extra things again because I'm selecting with a window, left to right. And then I'm going to select those 4 chairs and use mirror and just get that axis through the centre of the table, and we're done. Yep, that easy. So the wall I'll do next. So this now, when you get to do things like this, all the little fiddly steps I just showed you, you'll often be able to work out as you go, but what you really want to make sure you're comfortable with is those initial commands, drawing lines and then offsetting and filleting and trimming them to make things like walls. That's going to give you most of your, especially floor plan drawings, but sections and elevations as well. So I've. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're later on in the exercise. Yep. So okay, so now I want to do these walls. So we've got the. No, not that one. Oh, sorry, it's in the PDF too. Okay, so we've got these walls here, either side of the cupboard that we need to put in. And so you've got the dimensions down there. If you add those up, you'll see that the wall is 1100 from the inside of the room there. So I'm going to use offset, make my distance 1100, choose the line offset to the left, enter twice, completes the command, and then repeats it so I can enter a new distance. So now I can type 100. Oh, so this isn't in the notes. So you've got to work this out based on what you've been doing. So, yeah, I don't think they've given the steps for this. But it's all based on things you've already done. Yep. So then I'll use offset again. So looking at the drawing. So the next distance is 1200 and then 100 again. Right, so again, enter, because offset was my last command, and 1200, and then 100. So you can see how quick it is to enter multiple distances when you're working with offset, as long as you just keep pressing enter to get it to ask you for the distance again. Right, so now, this is where, okay, this drawing is not perfect because there's no dimension there for that cupboard depth. But in a way you don't need it if you know standard bench size. You all know that? Or anyone know standard bench depth? It's a good one to know. For decoration and design, it's one of those things you've got to know. If you're ever doing your kitchen, there is a standard size. Well, there are two. But there's one main one and another not so common one. So the most common standard for benches is 600. 600 deep. That's the one you should use if you can. Yeah. The other one's 550, but only do that if you really have to. And a lot of appliances and other things won't work with that. So 600 is better. They even have fridges now that'll fit in 600 built in.
Otherwise, if you can, wide is always better. Deep is always better.
Yeah, generally, yeah. And sometimes they have to be deeper, but 600 is kind of the standard now. And definitely stoves and sinks and all of those things should work with that. But yeah, fridges you've got to watch out and sometimes make adjustments. So, okay, so we know that 600 is our bench depth and the cupboard is the same. So I'm going to offset 600. Here's my line. Enter. Right, so I've got on my walls, but then now I want to trim them. Notice that these lines cross over those chairs. So that's going to be a problem with trim. Or it's not, we just need to work around that. So using trim. So up until now I've been saying press enter to start with, because that makes everything a cutting edge. But watch what's happened now. It's going to trim back to those chairs, and they're quite a fiddly thing now to cut around because there are lots of lines there. So we don't really want that. So this is where you need to think a bit about more how the command's actually working. When you're using trim, remember it's asking you to select cutting edges. Now, we've been pressing enter to make everything a cutting edge. But in this case, we don't want everything to be a cutting edge. We just want these lines to be cutting edges. So if you watch how I'm selecting, I'm going to get all of these lines by going right to left and getting all of the lines that I've just drawn. Right, so all of these lines, they're the ones we need. That one I didn't actually need. So it could have gone this way. But again, I've got to get all those lines I've made for my walls and the one going across the top. So they're my cutting edge, or cutting edges. That's where the blade or the scissors would go if we're making a model. Enter, and then just going to select the lines that I want to take away. Done. Okay, so that's how easy it is if you select the right edges. If you don't, it'll be a lot more work. So then to draw the bench top in, it's just a line on the furniture layer. The sink, like I said, you can just get any double sink that looks good to you. So I'll show you where you can get those. On the Insert tab again, I'm going to go to More Options. So I can choose Browse. And it's still in the same folder we were looking before, AutoCAD 2D. And then you'll see there are lots of different double syncs. So I've just clicked on the first one, and then pressing the down arrow on the keyboard, we can flick through them and see the preview on the right and see which one we like the look of. And I'm happy with that one actually, but we'll see if there are any others that look okay. Just flicking through, that's a good way of just seeing. But I'll go back to the one that was there before, I'm happy with that. There we go, that'll do. So I'm using this one if you want to use the same. Abby, sync double Goldwyn, but again, you can use any double sync you like, it's fine. So I'll click OK, and then, click Open and then OK, and we can see it there coming up next to my cursor, but notice it's not at the right angle. So I'm going to press Escape, go back here to Insert and then More Options, Browse, and I'll just choose it again. So this is a good chance to use this rotation option as well. So as well as the insertion point or specifying screen under insertion point ticked, you want the one under rotation ticked as well. Leave the scale 1 off. In fact, I recommend you leave the scale 1 off always. It's useless in AutoCAD because it's too sensitive. So you never need to use that, but the other two use all the time. Click OK. And then now, I'm going to click a point just above my wall. I don't want the sync right up against the wall. One little gap. And then, as I move the cursor, you can see it's going to rotate it for me. And I can easily get that to the right angle exactly with the polar snapping. It'll snap to a straight line and, get the exact angle I want. So that's fine. Just do that by eye. You can easily pick it up and move it. Right, so that's simple, just using the grip as well that you get with any block. And that's why the insertion point's such a useful thing. And so then we're just going to put in some of the dashed lines before we finish off with the door. So you've got the fridge and then the credenza and the projector, they're all done with dashed lines. So we need a layer that has dashed lines. So I'm just going to bring up my layers, and anyone who's gotten to this point, do you remember what the layer was called? Was it furniture dashed? Oh, a join above. Okay, well, yeah, okay, let's go with that. Okay, so a join is joinery, and then above is, of course, things above our plan or our cut plane. So then the line type here, which is continuous, needs to be changed, and last week we looked at using this option to load it, but you can do it as you make your layers just by clicking on the line type. Click there, then click Load. Now I'm going to tell you something different from what's in the notes because it says there to use dashed. That's wrong. It's not the right convention. In all architectural and interior design drawing, dashed should mean below and hidden should mean above. So I'm going to get you to use hidden, it's better. It's another dashed line, it's just that it's smaller. So what you need to do, once you've loaded it, you then still need to click on it. That's one thing that trips people up, so make sure you then click on it afterwards and it'll set it to your layer. That's it, so I'm going to double click to draw on that layer, and then we can draw the little square, that's the 300 one, so clicking on the little rectangle tool, and there is a way of getting it to go in the right spot from the beginning, but that's pretty tricky. So I'm just going to instead draw anywhere, and that's a normal approach, just draw it anywhere you like, and we'll make it 300, 300. And you might be thinking, God, well, those lines, they're pretty small, those dashes. I'm also going to show you a slightly different way of setting the scale to what might be in the notes or what James maybe would have shown you, because those are the old ways. This is the new way that's been, well, the new way, it's been there for 20 years, but a lot of people still don't know it. Use the scales. That's the best way. So what scale do you reckon you'd be using for this drawing? And for a lot of your interiors projects? Exactly, 1 to 50. That's the one you should be getting used to. So if you're not sure, use that. So these lines should have changed size. But if you don't see them change and you expect them to, the tip is to type, so, yeah, RE and enter. And, oh, now it's gone and so this thing, it drives me mad. Okay, so scaling can be an absolute pain sometimes in, so did James show you how to change the scale in here? Is that something that you got shown? No? Okay. So I'm just going to put in a scale here and see, I've got a feeling that we're working with, wrong units, this is frustrating. So just got to see how big our lines are, and I've got a feeling. Yeah. Okay, so now sort of test it because dashed maybe will work, but I think it's even going to be worse. It should be bigger than hidden. So I'm just going to load those in and just test it out. It's one of these things that unfortunately in AutoCAD is always a little bit inconsistent. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, so dashed, if you're thinking dashed would have solved the problem, dashed would have been even worse. So that's how big dashed is. So the reason we can't see the lines on this little thing that I've drawn is that the dashes are bigger than the side of the square. Oh. Right, so it'll be fine for the credenza, but for that they're too big. So I'm going to show you the solution, and that's to use an even smaller dash. So if I change this, so I'm going to go and load another one called hidden 2. That's half the size of hidden. So hidden is half the size of dashed, hidden 2 is half the size of hidden. So there we are, you can see hidden 2 is now set to that layer, and there we are, now it's working. So use hidden 2, and you should be fine. Okay, so now I can move that square using the midpoint. Maybe I'll do the midpoint on the side first because that'll be easier. Oh, I just selected it and then clicked the move button. Oh, now, look, I'm probably going a bit fast. If you haven't used move before, it works just like copy. So if I've selected it first and then I click move, it's going to ask me for a base point. So I'm going to choose the midpoint on the side and then go to the midpoint on the side of my table. And then I'll show you how good base points are, because you might be thinking, well, how am I going to get this centered now without putting a construction line in? Or, you know, projecting or something. But you don't have to. So here, I'm going to click the... Oh, no, so I'll do it twice. It might be a bit confusing at first, but I just want you to see something. So I'm going to pick up the midpoint on the base of my square and move it over so that it's centered on that edge. It'll make sense in a second, but I just want to give you some practice working with base points. So I select it again, click move again, and so this time I'm going to click a base point on the corner below my square. So that's what you to get you thinking about the base point's like a handle. So that's what the handle I'm using to pick up my square. So notice it's not on the square. It's set out for my square, and that's because I want to come across now and use the midpoint here to centre that square over the table. That can maybe give you an idea why you've got to think about the base point every time you use one of those commands, and it can be a really, really useful thing. So I'll do the same thing to put the projector in. It's going a bit faster, so I'll draw another rectangle and draw it anywhere. And again, forgotten the size. It's in here somewhere, I know, because I saw it. Here we go. It's 1200 across, comma, 20 mil the other way. That doesn't seem big enough. Oh, I know why, because they're giving you half the size. That's mad. Okay, well that doesn't make sense to me. I know in the notes that's what it says, but it should be the full size. So, yeah, okay, so I'm going to just do that again, but make it 2400 by 20. That's the size. No, I think they're getting you to do half in that example and then extend it or something. But it's definitely double that size. You can just tell by looking at the drawing. You can see it's... Oh no, it is 1200, so I'm going mad. Okay, I thought it was stretching, yeah. So this is the way it used to be. All right, so that's right, I'm going mad. Okay, 1200, just do that. Yep. I mean, that'd be a tiny projector. I don't know why you'd ever want a projector that size. You know, a metre across. I mean, TV screens are a lot bigger than that these days, so that's mad. Anyhow, that's how it is. So, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to pick it up with the midpoint on the side. And then, remember, we can then snap it onto the midpoint over here. And then use move again. And, well, let's do one more method. I'm going to pick up the midpoint on the bottom of this rectangle. And remember, coming across to the midpoint on the base of this cadenza, without clicking on it, we can project from that point and then come up and line up that way. So there we are. And that's a good one to practice. If it's not working for you, just draw some construction lines in to work out your centre point. Then all we've got to do to finish off for the door, which won't take long, is offset the size of the fridge, which I think they've basically done as a square. Well, let's say it's a bit bigger than that, so let's say it's 800. Select that line and change it to the... I'm just going to use the join above layer. I'm not going to bother making another layer for this. Draw a line across and then trim that line back. There we go. And then put the door in. So I'm changed to my door layer. And, well, I suppose we better do what you've been shown in the layers, which is have a layer for the door jamb as well. Probably realise I don't do that myself, but we'll do it for now. And the line weight will make... Well, look, even if it says something different in the notes, I'm going to do what I do. What do they say here? Yeah, that's wrong. Because I really want to emphasise correct drawing conventions. It's more important than following some of these things that you've been given. That's just wrong, I've got to say. A door should never be a light line weight when it's being cut. Anything that's being cut should be heavier than the light things. Maybe not your heaviest, maybe not 0.5 or anything like the walls, but definitely heavier than 0.18. That's way too light. So I think 0.35 is good. And that's what I'm going to use. And I make my door the same because it just isn't correct otherwise. And then the door jamb colour, I can just do yellow, I'm happy with that. And then I want another layer, probably more important than the door jamb, the door swing. Because that needs a different line weight, and I want that to be at least 0.8 at the most, in other words, sorry, the highest. But in practice, personally, I would make it even lighter than that, 0.13. So that's it. So now, going at full speed, I'm going to draw my door jambs. So we're going to use 40mm as our standard jamb measurement, and because of the way it's been drawn in this exercise, yep, so if you're not sure, if you ever have to draw a door jamb and you're not given measurements, 40mm is the standard size. Normally 40 by 100, but looking closely at that drawing, you can see it's actually been done more as a square. 40mm across this way always. But that dimension, well, let's just do it the right way. I'm not going to draw what's there. That's probably about 60mm, but the more standard size is 40 by 100. So I'm just going to do that. Whoops. Okay, so, well, I could do that all again, but remember, mirror with the midpoint from that wall will let us flip it. And then sorry, that was quick, I know, but it's all in the video, it's all recorded. So I'm just going to change those lines to my door swing layer. Sorry, not door swing, door jamb. And I haven't shown you that the line weights can be turned on down here, if you want to see them. Remember that little button in the bottom right corner. If you don't see the line weights option, it needs to be ticked there, and then this little button here will turn on and hide and unhide your line weights. And that's good to check because they haven't gone in properly, so I'm going to just go and make sure that they're working. Yeah, door jamb, okay, 0.35. Did I put it on door swing, did I? Let's make that a different colour as well, because that's what I like. So, yeah, I'll put them on door swing, that's why. So here we go, I'll put them onto the right one, which is door jamb, that's better. Okay, so to draw the door swing and the door, we need to know how big the door is. And you can work that out in your head from what we've drawn so far. So remember that the width of that cupboard is 1200, right? So the door is half of that size, so 600, minus the door jamb, which is 40. So 560, that's it. So I'm going to draw a line, making sure I'm on my door layout. I'm going to draw a line from the corner there, that's where the hinge would be, coming up, 560. That's the important one. Now, let's see if they've got a thickness. No, they don't have a door thickness, so that's all I need. So, I'll copy that line. You could draw it again, but I'm just going to use copy to copy it to the other side. And then change to my door swing layer. And then, best tip I can give you for drawing door swings, I think most of you worked it out last week, that you can use start, centre, end to draw things like door swings under the arc menu. So when we go to arc, start, centre, end. Right, so the start is going to be the top of the door. The centre, which is the next one we need to choose, is on the hinge, on that corner of the door jamb. And then we come over to the left, and if you've got polar on, it'll snap to where it should. So then you've got two options. You can either draw the door swing again with the same option, but if you're going to do that, it would need to start here. I'll explain why later, but that's just something to go with. That works. Otherwise, you could use mirror to get the same result. And there we are. That's the finished floor plan.